Hi, my name's Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Citizenship, a very short introduction by Richard Bellamy. And I'd like to just go through this book from this popular series, just really discussing how it's put together, what kind of themes and ideas are brought up in this short book. Richard Bellamy, the author, is Professor of Political Science and Director of the School of Public Policy at University College London. This very short introduction was published in 2008. So, citizenship, a hot topic these days, of course, perhaps more so since this book was published, so perhaps this is due a second edition, particularly in Britain with Brexit and all that jazz. But the book, I learned a lot from this book. As a non-specialist, that's why I like reading these books, like I think many other people, just to find out about things you feel you should know a bit more about. This book's really 5 chapters. So the first chapter really is concerns a definition of citizenship. And, citizenship can be quite a woolly term. What actually does it mean to be a citizen? And of course, over the years, that has varied. But by the end of this first chapter, Bellamy makes the point that really there's 3 important elements for citizenship. One is membership. To be a citizen, you have to belong to a nation or a country or some kind of political group, some kind of political community. And with that membership, there's certain rights which citizens hold. He returns to this issue of rights later on in the book, but it's introduced here, something every citizen perhaps should be entitled to and perhaps help preserve the rights of others. How far-ranging those rights are, whether that applies to other countries, etc., whether that applies to immigrants, Bellamy talks about further on in the book. And then finally, it's about participation. And of course, participation in the modern day democracies of Western Europe, for instance, and America, have declined recently. But in the past, participation was very much expected of citizens. So, if participation is important, how should citizens participate? The second chapter then moves on to the different models of citizenship throughout history. And Bellamy draws on 2 ancient models. First of all, the ancient Athenian model, where citizens were not everybody in the Athenian population. A citizen was male, a landowner, was independent of means, and was free to devote all his time to public service. So that's the Athenian model, the Athenian ideal. And the second model is Imperial Rome, where with the growth of the empire and with the emperor and his small senate around him, all the big decisions were left to them, and everyone else were given rights to be a Roman citizen. With those rights, citizens felt a degree of protection wherever they were. There's more of a legal concept of citizenship. And of course, these 2 models have had wide-ranging and far-reaching effects on subsequent centuries. And, Bellamy goes through concepts such as the social contracts, famously during the French Revolution and America, after American independence. Also the idea of nation states, which came along this time as well. and then eventually into modern democracy with competing parties. And these two ancient models of ancient Athens, and Imperial Rome, have all influenced these different versions of democracy and citizenship throughout the ages. The third chapter is concerned about the criteria for being a citizen, for gaining membership in a state. Bellamy critiques the ancient Athenian model, and in which one was expected to dedicate himself, it was only men, to the public good at the expense of private interests. The fact that they were independent of means, and the fact that they had a stake in the political community. What they decided had importance not only to them but to the whole nation. It's a very weighty responsibility. And Bellamy, in this third chapter, discusses how far, certainly many of those things should be rejected. To be a member of, a citizen, we don't need to be a warrior anymore, etc. We don't have to be male anymore. We don't have to be independent of means anymore. But, there are some aspects, particularly having a stake in the common good, which Bellamy believes we should hold on to. The fourth chapter is about how rights and citizenship relate, perhaps referring more to the Imperial Rome model. And he moves on to, ideas of a cosmopolitan citizenship, something which is globalised, which many people think is the way to go, of course. But then Bellamy quite rightly goes through the problems of that and how that just could not work. It's just too vast, and people would lack a sense of common ground in making decisions for their political communities. But he also goes on to how difficult it is to enshrine rights in democracies, and the importance of countries to work together, on an international stage to uphold rights. In the final chapter, Bellamy rounds off this very short introduction by discussing how democracy and citizenship have always been intertwined. Without democracy, there wouldn't be a viable idea of citizenship. And, he goes back to the extremes of, he imagines if everyone had a say in every single decision, which would kind of be a kind of pure democracy, how unwieldy that would be. And then nothing would really get decided. But then he goes to the other extreme and imagines if there was just a select group of experts making all the decisions without say from the populace. But then that might, that might have its own problems, of widening inequalities, etc. So it turns out, according to Bellamy, the modern day democracy with competing parties, which we have in Western Europe and the States, although perhaps not perfect, is the best system in which citizens can flourish. It seems to have the participation of everyone being able to vote, but also ensuring that everyone has rights, and of course ensuring that everybody has a strong sense of membership to their political community. So Citizenship, a very short introduction, a thought-provoking book, and definitely recommended. And thanks for watching. And I've just included a brief slideshow of basically what I've just said. Thanks for watching. Bye.